In this video, I'm going to talk about what is neurodiversity and why it's important to understand about neurodiversity and if you are someone who is neurodiverse. So first off, what is neurodiversity? I didn't hear about this term until I actually was in medical school, and growing up with ADHD and dyslexia, I had a professor that told me about this, and I was like, really? There is such thing as a tribe that, groups themselves as neurodiversity. So what neurodiversity is, we know from brain scans and looking at different kids and different people that have different learning, different learning and different tactics that they do. And we want to look at it as a disability or something that's abnormal. There's something wrong with us. And this is a term that Judy Singer actually came up with, she actually has autism and she's a professor. And basically the concept is, instead of looking at people who have learning disabilities and there's something wrong with them, is that it's more about differences. So having learning differences, of learning things differently than the neurotypical type of person. And the whole idea about neurodiversity is a group of people that do learn differently and not looking at it as a deficit. So who is considered neurodiverse? Well, the people who are considered neurodiverse would be people who have ADHD, people who are on the autism spectrum, people who have dyslexia, dyspraxia, or other learning disabilities. But in the neurodiversity, the push for this is basically that we have learning differences, that we learn things differently than the neurotypical person, and that it makes us more normal versus being some weird alien that just because we learn differently and we have challenges in normal society when it comes to learning in school or going at work in a corporation or being amongst other people who are neurotypical, is that we just learn differently versus just, okay, we have a deficit and so there's something wrong with us. Now, the big stigma around people who are neurodiverse is they want to look at us that we are abnormal. So how can we change this stigma? Well, it really is helping and educating people, and it's starting to show in science. They're looking that, yeah, we learn differently. It isn't necessarily that we have a deficit. And in any cases, it can look like a deficit because of how things are structured in the school system, how things are structured in the workforce, and it makes it difficult for us people who are neurodiverse to actually fit in. But when we actually apply, when we understand that we do learn differently, and then the people that we work with understand that we learn differently, we can really shine and make a huge difference in this world and being interrupters in the system and look at someone as per se normal, because there's plenty of us that are neurodiverse. We just learn differently. It doesn't mean we necessarily have a deficit or are just abnormal from the rest of everybody else. So how can it be changed within school? Well, we need to really educate people, and there is schools that are starting to apply more of ways of applying learning differently. Not necessarily always the same structured system of sitting in class, listening to the teacher, and not moving. They're starting to apply these in, special schools, or at least, private schools. It'd be nice to push this towards, and this is a movement that this neurodiversity is to push this movement to really educate schools to help people who are neurodiverse to actually teach different ways of learning versus just the standard way, because we learn differently. It isn't necessarily a deficit, it's just we learn differently. And then of course within the workforce, trying to help, corporations and bosses and people in the workforce to understand that people in the neurodiversity in that tribe, we learn differently, but we definitely can contribute a lot in corporations, and really in a lot of cases can make a huge impact on businesses. But they need to understand that we don't typically do things the standard way. We actually learn things differently, but we also do tasks and we do different projects differently in a different way. And instead of trying to push us to do the standard way of doing things, let us be creative and think outside the box to actually have something better than just the typical stuff. And if we can educate more businesses and they get on the trend of this, then us neurodiverse people can really shine in all aspects versus try to be nudged into this common society that they're trying to push us to do when it doesn't work for us, because again, going back, we just learn different. Not necessarily a deficit, but we learn different. But I look at it as a great tribe to be part of, being part of the neurodiversity tribe that I'm part of. Having ADHD, I'm actually proud of having ADHD because I am different, I learn differently, and therefore I'm able to contribute into society in a different way than just the standard normal people. Okay. Now you might be wondering, okay, am I part of this cool tribe of neurodiversity? And you want to know if you do have ADHD or not. Or if you have other if you are in those learning disabilities, well, check out this video right here where I talk about different ways of understanding if you have ADHD or not, or, and learning about the differences there. So watch this playlist right here, and I'll see you guys in the inside there.